Good morning once again from the National Weather Service office in Lake Charles, Louisiana. I'm meteorologist Donald Jones. Alongside me is meteorologist Chanelle Stigger. We're going to talk about the ongoing severe weather threat across the region this morning. Now, thus far, most of the activity has remained relatively uneventful, but the squall line that we've long anticipated is approaching from the west, and we expect it to continue to increase in intensity as we go through the day today. Obviously, we already have some very strong winds out there this morning, well ahead of the actual squall line itself. Those are actually going to continue to increase as we go throughout the day today, and they're going to pose their own threat in the form of possibly some minor damage, as well as some isolated power outages as we go through the day, as we are looking at wind gusts out there in the 50+ mile per hour range, and that is well ahead of the squall line itself, which is forecast to move through the area later on this morning and into this afternoon. We'll talk about all the exact timing of when that squall line is expected to move through here over the next little while. As always, this is a live interactive briefing, so if you have any questions as we go through our briefing, feel free to post them in our comments section. We'll be happy to answer them for you just as soon as we wrap up our briefing. I'm going to go ahead and let Chanelle actually get started with our briefing here this morning, and we're going to kind of do this as a little bit of a tag team event, so I'll be jumping in and out to kind of give her a hand when necessary. But Chanelle, go ahead.
So as he was saying, we are expecting windy conditions. We actually have windy conditions ongoing here. I'll slide over to this side. We have windy conditions ongoing as the system approaches. And out ahead of this line, we're looking at wind gusts of up to 50 miles per hour. So we can expect some possible power outages with trees, tree limb or branches and limbs falling on power lines, which can cause these isolated power outages, especially across for our area, mainly central Louisiana, south central Louisiana, and southwest Louisiana. And then again, we do have that line of strong thunderstorms, that squall line that is expected to move through the region later today. And we'll be able to show you that on radar as well. So what we have, this is what we have observed as of 9:30 this morning. We have observed wind gusts as high as about 40 miles per hour, but mainly about 30 miles per hour across our area. And this is of this morning. It's not working on me.
Oh, hang on. There you
go. Okay. And our forecast wind gusts for the rest of the day, and this is through this event, is around the 40 to 50 mile per hour range. So we're expecting the stronger wind gusts actually again, as we said before, in central Louisiana, south central Louisiana, and southern southwestern Louisiana, with most of our Texas counties not expecting those higher wind gusts. So we do have a high wind warning because of the fact that we're expecting those higher winds. We do have a high wind warning in effect. And what a high wind warning means is that any winds that are higher than about 40 miles per hour are expected. And again, going back to this, we're expecting lower 30s around Texas and then 40s and greater across the rest of our area. So we do have that high wind warning in effect for our area. So going into the severe weather outlook, we do have a moderate risk. That's the highest risk in this area, and that is a 4 out of 5 for central Louisiana. For other parts of central Louisiana and south central Louisiana, we're looking at a 3 out of 4. We're looking at a 2 out of 4 in most of our Texas counties, and then southwestern Louisiana. And what we're looking at with this, our main threat still is damaging winds. That is our main threat at the moment. However, we do have the isolated chance of large hail. We do have a chance of tornadoes, especially again around in this area, along with a low risk of flooding, which we'll get into later, and then lightning as well. So our risk of tornadoes, and if you've been watching this day after day, you can observe that our tornado risk actually has gone down. So we have about a 5% chance of seeing tornadoes around most of our area, with that higher risk existing again for central Louisiana, where we can see anywhere between a 10 to 15% risk chance of that.
Hang on. Sorry, messed something up here.
Ready?
Go ahead.
Our risk of severe wind, this again is our highest risk. We're looking at a 15% probability of damaging wind gusts with it going higher as we go further out east. So we're looking at anywhere between a 30% chance here and then going out further east even higher.
Damn. I'm trying to go full screen here and it's, go ahead.
And then for risk of severe hail, we do have a low end risk. However, it is possible that we could see severe hail in this as well. It's about a 5% chance of severe hail. As far as rainfall is concerned, we are still forecasting about 1/4 of an inch to an inch of rain across the area. So we're not expecting flash flooding to be a major problem with this system moving through. However, with this rainfall falling in a short amount of time, it can cause ponding and isolated and minor flooding across parts of the area, especially parts that are looking at greater rainfall rates. So this is what we're looking at. This is just one model, so don't kind of ping in on it. But we're looking at the squall line kind of moving through, and this is about 12 p.m. This afternoon, kind of starting to move in through our area. We have showers that are expected behind it as well. So about 12 to 3. From about 3, you can see it still pushing in, starting to move through most of central Louisiana and south central Louisiana. And then 2, still continuing to move through. By 3, it's clearing out of all of Texas and parts of central, north central central and southwestern Louisiana. And then it's still not moving on me.
That's because you touched the screen. Sorry.
Oh.
Go ahead.
And then by 4, still moving out. 5, continuing to move through. And by 6, clearing most of our area with exception to about parts of Morgan City and St. Mary parishes, and then moving out from there. So this is what we have going on. We have the squall line associated with this cold front, and it will push through, and behind it we have a high pressure that will come in and kind of clear out the area, causing for actually great weather behind this front. So it will we'll have pretty good weather for Thursday and Friday. And Saturday, we actually have a front kind of lifting through that will cause some isolated showers and thunderstorms. We're not looking at anything severe with this, but it's something to just watch out for. We do have showers expected with that. And then on Sunday, we have another high pressure building in behind that. So just to go over our 7-day forecast, today, of course, we're expecting gusty winds. We're expecting the severe threat. We're expecting mostly winds, damaging wind gusts, isolated tornadoes, possibility of isolated hail. And for going on, after this, after the high pressure kind of builds in, the end of Wednesday into Thursday, we're looking at actually nice weather kind of continuing for Thursday and Friday. Saturday, with that front kind of lifting through, we are expecting some showers and thunderstorms. Another high pressure is going to start to build in, kind of clear us out. So we're looking at good weather on Sunday. And then Monday and Tuesday, we're looking at another system kind of moving through, giving us weather at the beginning of the work week. So that's all we have for you today. If you guys have any questions, feel free to jump in the comments and ask.
All right, thank you, Chanelle. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to radar here real quick just to kind of take a look at what's going on out there at the moment. I'm going to throw this into motion. You can see that yellow box there. That is a severe thunderstorm warning that's currently in effect for the greater Houston area. As you can see there on the screen, this is the squall line that we've been talking about approaching. You can see it's starting to get better organized, but you can see within that squall line, there's actually some individual cells as well. There's an individual cell up here just east of the Livingston area, one just east of the Cleveland area, and then obviously that stronger squall or more linear system going through the Houston area. Now, that severe thunderstorm warning is in effect because they're anticipating or observing winds in excess of 60 miles per hour in and around the Houston area. In fact, I saw a comment here just a minute ago saying that they were already reporting some damage in the Houston area this morning associated with those winds. So you can see if I kind of back out here all of this is moving in our general direction. There is some light to moderate shower activity moving across parts of Hardin, Tyler, and Jefferson counties, even into parts of Jasper and Newton counties this morning. But the most significant of the thunderstorm activity is still back to the west, so it's pretty much yet to come across the entire region. We're looking actually at the Houston radar right here, and if I stop this, you can see some of this activity just of the squall line itself just beginning to get into parts of Tyler County here this morning. Now, as Chanelle mentioned, once the squall line actually moves through, the severe weather threat will come to an end. So kind of along and ahead of that squall line is where the biggest risk is going to exist as we go through the day today. Once that line actually moves through, the severe weather threat will come to an end after that point. It'll still be breezy out there, but it won't be nearly as windy as what we're seeing this morning into early this afternoon. You can see there is still some isolated light showers behind that front that'll continue for a couple of hours, so the sun's not going to come out immediately once the squall line gets passed, but the severe weather threat will come to an end from that point forward. I'm going to go ahead and jump back in here and see if we do have any questions. So if you do have a question that you posted at the beginning of our briefing, I may not be able to see it, so go ahead and throw it back in there. I'll be happy to answer it again. So bear with me just a second while I read through your questions and comments. And yes, Chanelle, still here. You saw her there a second ago. She'll be answering some questions as well. Let's see, actually not seeing too many questions here this morning. Joy's asking, what time will it be in the Leesville area? Let me come back to the actual graphic here. We'll go back through that timing once again real quick. And Chanelle, you want to go ahead and take that?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and take this question. So we are expecting it to move through the Leesville area mainly. So we're looking at, you will be looking at showers and thunderstorms. Sorry, I had to organize myself really quick. You're looking at showers and thunderstorms starting around noon or earlier, and then more severe weather kind of expected in the Leesville area about 1, 2, and then starting to move out about 3 or 4.
Okay, Tyler's asking about the chances of tornadoes in Rapides Parish today.
So for Rapides Parish, and here I'll go to, nope, it's at the front of the briefing. So for Rapides Parish, as far as tornadoes are concerned, you guys are looking at about a 10 to 15% chance of or tornadoes in that area.
And when we say 10 to 15% chance, we're talking about basically what that means is there's a 10 to 15% chance of seeing a tornado within 25 miles of any location really across Rapides Parish this afternoon. So while that sounds pretty low, it's actually a relatively high risk compared to any other normal day when the chances of seeing a tornado are virtually zero. So it's actually a relatively high risk compared to most days. Hugh is asking, are we expecting a wind advisory after the line moves through?
So we still will have strong winds after the line moves through. However, it will not be as strong. We're looking at...
Sorry. Wait, stop. Okay.
Okay. We still are looking at strong winds even when the line moves through. So this high wind warning is actually in effect until 5. However, we are expecting winds to taper down as that line moves through.
So Katie's asking, what is the wind looking like in the Beaumont area? It's been gusting quite a bit so far.
So yeah, and we actually have, so our highest wind gusts, and yes, we have had really high wind gusts, about 40 miles per hour observed in the Beaumont area. However, we're still looking at those wind gusts continuing. So about 40 to 45 miles per hour.
Gail says the local channel in Lake Charles is only showing about a 23 mile an hour gust of wind.
You want to take that one?
That's because we have a lot more observing stations than the TV stations have, especially in the Lake Charles area here. So while one observing station may only be showing 23, there's actually quite a few. And what you have to keep in mind, if you go back to the actual observed numbers here this morning, we've got observing stations here at the Lake Charles Regional Airport. There's one, I think, at Southland Field. There's another one, I think, out at Vinton. So there are several different observing stations. This is just the highest readings, the highest gusts that we've had from those so far. And those are going to vary from location to location, depending on exactly how much exposure there is. Airport locations generally have higher overall wind gusts because they're out kind of away from trees in the middle of a runway, so you can get higher gusts out of that. And that's important to kind of keep in mind as well whenever you're talking about, the numbers that you're seeing behind me here, the 30s and the 50s that we're forecasting, those are going to be in open fields. They're not necessarily going to be in neighborhoods where there's a lot of trees and buildings and such to kind of block and deflect that wind. So, if you have a home observing station, in your backyard, it may not necessarily measure the 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts that we're forecasting. But if that station were kind of out in the middle of an open field, then you would get those much higher gusts. So there's things that actually slow that wind down, trees, buildings, power lines, all that stuff, so that the actual wind gust that you observe in your backyard is often lower than what is actually being forecast, because that's more kind of for an open field where that wind has a lot of room to kind of run up and really get going. What in the world? Okay, so Mario's asking, is today a better time to fly a kite rather than last week? Last week was a bummer. If you try to fly a kite out there today, your kite is going to die. That's pretty much the long and short of it there.
Your kite has a chance of being sucked up by a tornado, depending on where you are.
Blair's asking, are we anticipating a tornado watch for the Lake Charles area today?
Okay, so we do not have any tornado watches out for our area today or at the moment. And actually, we don't have it up there. We do have tornado watches that are in effect, not for our area, but actually for about north of us up into Shreveport's area. And you're going to pull that up really quick. So yeah, so this is the tornado watches that we have so far. And it kind of clips, and I think I accidentally touched the screen. It kind of clips our area. So as we go on later into the day, we'll see and determine if it is necessary for our area. However, this is, as far as it goes, is like right north of our northern parishes.
So you see that tornado watch essentially covers from just north of Vernon, Rapides, and Avoyelles parishes all the way up through pretty much all of central Arkansas and into southern Missouri. So there's a pretty large, pretty large swath there. And that is basically because that's where that line is going to be moving through. Now, the line is going to be moving through here as well. And if that tornado risk does increase, that tornado watch may need to be extended into our area. Now, right now, like we saw earlier, the overall tornado risk is still relatively low across our area. We're only looking at about a 2% chance across most of southwest Louisiana. It's a little bit higher up towards Rapides and Avoyelles parishes. But right now, the overall risk is not so much for tornadoes right now as much as it is strong, damaging winds. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if rather than a tornado watch, we actually see a severe thunderstorm watch come out later on today, kind of across parts of our area. Wyatt says, good job, but for some reason, Donald is cleared. When she was talking, they had an echo like a barrel. That's because Donald is wearing the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
That's why we're kind of, we're sharing a microphone. So Chanelle's kind of off in the distance in a tunnel, in a cave, in a canyon, while on a phone. It's a great time. So yeah, we kind of got to make do with that, unfortunately. Brittany asks, how rare are high wind warnings for our area? The last high wind warning that was actually issued for our area was November of 2015. So it's been over 7 years since we've actually issued a high wind warning for our area. That's why I wanted to make sure to let you know exactly what it means, because it is a very rare event across our area. It's not something we see very often at all, but that's a good question. Gail asks, will the wind get any worse in the Lake Charles area today?
So we are, as far as today, we are expecting those stronger winds mainly associated with the squall line expected to move through. So we're expecting forecast wind gusts to be around 40 to 50 miles per hour or greater in the Lake Charles area.
So these winds that we're showing here, they are actually, those are the winds that are expected ahead of the squall line, just in the, kind of the winds we're seeing out there right now, what we call the gradient winds, which are winds just between high and low pressure areas. Now, the winds within the squall line itself will have the potential to be stronger. For a severe thunderstorm to be considered severe, winds have to be at least 60 miles per hour or greater. So that's certainly not out of the realm of possibility, and we may even see some winds higher than that 70, 80 mile an hour winds within that squall line, certainly not out of the realm of possibility. But even outside of the squall line, we're still looking at wind gusts this afternoon across the Lake Charles area and the entire region, really, at 50 miles an hour or greater. We've already seen some pretty strong wind gusts here as we've gone through the morning, and this is going to increase as we go through the afternoon. These are the observed wind gusts out there right now, between about 30 up to 40 miles per hour already in the Beaumont area. So those are potentially going to increase somewhat, especially across parts of southwest Louisiana as we go through the day today.
Move out of the way.
Jamie asks, I live in Avoyelles Parish. Is it possible it can slow down? It's moving at a pretty decent clip here, and there's no reason to think that it's going to slow down at this point. Let me go ahead and pull the radar back up here real quick, and I'll put this into motion. You can see the whole line, the severe thunderstorm line, I'll zoom out a little bit so we can get kind of a little bit of a broader view, is moving at a fairly robust clip, probably about 40, 45 miles an hour or so. And we don't expect that to slow down. That's good news because that's going to keep the overall flash flood threat pretty much to a minimum. And it's also going to get any potential severe weather here through here pretty quickly as well. So no, we don't expect this to slow down. And again, like we talked about a couple of times already, once the squall line does get through your area, then the severe weather risk will pretty much be over from that point forward. So you'll probably be dealing with this line as it comes through, probably for anywhere between about 45 minutes to an hour. And then once that's through, then you're pretty much done with the severe weather for at least this event, hopefully for the rest of the spring. But at least for today, you'll be done with the severe weather. Tim says, whoa, highlighting the questions. Get that producer a raise. I agree, Tim. This producer needs a raise in the baddest way. Margaret asks, when can I expect the worst of the weather to pass through the Lafayette area?
So for the Lafayette area, oh, thank you. So we're looking at the worst of it we're looking at it starting around 2 or 3 and the worst of it kind of passing through about 3 to 4 and ending in your area about 4 to 5.
Lisa's asking, what should DeRidder expect? Is there any tornado activity expected in the DeRidder area?
Well,
go ahead.
it's not letting me go.
Hang on. Go ahead.
So with the DeRidder area, let's go back to risk of tornadoes. So with the DeRidder area, again, you guys do have a 5% chance of seeing a tornado in your area. And what Donald was saying, this is a 5% chance within a 25-mile radius of where of any location in that area. So there is a risk of tornadoes in the DeRidder area.
John and Missy, will the storm intensify as it moves more eastward? And how much will it intensify as it gets closer to Church Point, Lawtell, and Opelousas?
So we're expecting, and kind of as we can see, things are getting worse as far as severe potential is concerned as this actually moves further east. So as you can see, it's not, and especially going back to our risk, there's not much of a risk in comparison to what we're looking at further east. So as it makes its way across, and I believe she said Opelousas,
Lawtell and Church Point.
Yeah, Lawtell and Church Point. As it makes its way east towards there, we will see some of these storms begin to intensify.
Tony asks, is it pulling moisture from the Gulf, and which way are the winds coming from?
Yes, winds are actually, we do have Gulf moisture kind of streaming into the area. That's where our winds are coming from. So we have this southerly flow kind of pulling in and pulling all this Gulf moisture into our area. Is it going through?
Yeah, there it is.
So yes, as you can see, we do have these southerly winds kind of pulling in. And are we at the surface?
Yep.
Yes, we do. Yes, we are. So we do have southerly flow going on. We do have this moisture that's being pulled up into our area from the Gulf.
Lisa asked, is Tim the producer? No, Tim's not even at this office. He's just
Not yet.
over
We're
there.
driving him back.
No, I'm the producer. That's why I'm over here playing with the computer and messing Chanelle up. Pamela would love to see a video of somebody flying a kite. That would be, they might be flying along with the kite by this afternoon. Alexis asks, what are the chances of this storm to have embedded supercells?
So we are expecting some supercells. There is a potential. Is it coming back up? With that, and you want to go ahead and take it since you have radar?
Well, it's not so much that the supercells are going to be within the squall line itself. Normally, when you're talking about supercells, you're looking at cells that are developing out in front of the squall line. Now, that's not to say that storms embedded within the squall line don't have the potential to become severe. They very much do. But if you're talking about supercells in the traditional sense, normally we see those form out in front of the squall line itself. And at this point, just kind of looking at how the radar is setting up, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. If we were going to see any, we would probably see, kind of right now from what we're looking at, you would normally see it kind of across Jefferson County, Orange County, just based on where it is right now. And you're not seeing much. You're seeing some light shower activity develop up that way. But the majority of the activity is with the squall line right now. We'll see how things develop as we go through the rest of the morning and afternoon here. It is possible we could see a few individual supercells try to get going ahead of that squall line. But at least for this event right now, it looks like the biggest overall threat is going to be from the within the squall line itself. Ashley says, Chanelle, you go, girl.
Hi, Ashley.
Jamie says, you always skip my question. I'm out of here. I will watch another channel.
What was your question?
Bye, Jamie. I didn't skip your question on purpose, I promise.
We didn't see it. If you're still here, ask it again.
I am skipping over a few questions, just asking about individual locations because, we can do that all day. And, we kind of already went through the timing. So you can always rewind the video and get go through the actual briefing itself where we do the hour-by-hour breakdown of when we expect the squall line to actually push through those particular areas. Sarah asked, what did the blue area mean when you had the graphic up showing the tornado watch area? Let me see if I can pull the tornado watch area back up here. Let me get that back up on the screen. That is, I do believe, severe thunderstorm warnings that are currently or were just in effect. That's what the blue is. And the green area up there in southern Missouri is actually flash flood warnings that are currently in effect.
Yeah. That was severe thunderstorm warnings. That's the shaded in blue. Tornado warning is the actual highlighted box. And then flood warnings are the highlighted in green or shaded in green.
Kelsey says, I know that the high wind advisory is only for parts of Louisiana, but Orange County is pretty close to that advisory as well. Will higher winds be expected for Orange County being so close to the state line?
So with the fact that the squall line will be moving through, we are expecting high winds and mainly with and associated with that line of activity moving through. However, you can expect, depending on, where was it? Orange County. So you can expect higher winds. You guys do have a wind advisory in effect.
Yeah, so we do have a regular wind advisory in effect for Orange County. And what that means is that winds of up to basically 35 miles an hour or so, actually be 35 knots, so 40 miles an hour are expected. So anywhere between 20 and 40 miles an hour is what we're expecting for an actual wind advisory. I know it's kind of like splitting hairs, but you can see there, those are the forecast wind gusts as we go through the afternoon. The Beaumont Orange area, we're expecting those maximum winds to be right around 40 miles an hour or so, which is kind of on the cusp of the differentiation between a wind advisory and a high wind warning. So we decided to just hold on to the wind advisory in that area as we're expecting the higher winds to be across Louisiana. But with that in mind, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to see significant winds. I mean, 40 mile an hour wind gusts, that's tropical storm force winds. So it is still significant, even though you're not technically under the high wind warning.
Yeah, it's nothing to sleep on.
Gail's asking, is this a pretty fast moving rain? Yeah, it's moving, like we said before, about 40, 45 miles an hour. So the heaviest of the rain is not going to last too long once it gets into your area, maybe only 30 or 45 minutes or so. Tanya says she's flying into New Orleans and landing at 8. What are my thoughts? My thoughts are that this line of storms is going to be moving into that area probably about that time. I can't tell you it's going to be exactly at 8, but it's going to be in that vicinity. So don't be surprised if your flight might have to fly around for a few minutes before actually landing. I think this line is probably going to be thin enough that they won't completely divert it, but they might have to kind of wait a little while till the landing conditions improve before landing, if the line's moving through at that exact time. Kyle asks, will we see y'all again next Tuesday for the next potential severe weather maker? If it's severe, I guess we'll be here.
We're hoping it's not.
We're hoping it's not. Yeah, we'd rather no more severe weather. That would be fantastic. Although Chanelle needs to practice with Facebook Live, so we'll get her back out here again.
This is true.
Chelsea says this is moving slower than predicted. Maybe slightly. We were expecting it to be getting into Southeast Texas, kind of Tyler, Hardin County, between about 9 and 10 o'clock. It's 10:30 now, so we're about a half hour off, but not by much. I mean, that's about as good as it gets as far as forecasting goes. We're not perfect. If I had a crystal ball, I'd have a perfect forecast. I'd be forecasting things besides the weather, like the Powerball numbers. Sharania, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. If you're in a mobile home, should you relocate temporarily? I've kind of been saying this for the last couple of days, and I'm going to continue to reiterate it. You know, anytime we're talking about a squall line with the potential for the damaging winds 60 miles an hour or greater that we're talking about, I always recommend, you know, not being in a mobile home. Mobile homes can be flipped over relatively easily by winds, and we are still looking at wind gusts this afternoon outside of that squall line, still in the 50-plus mile an hour range. That's enough to knock over some light trailers even, especially those that aren't tied down with those wind straps. So, yeah, I always recommend that, you know, as a squall line's moving through, if you don't have to be in a mobile home, if you don't have to be in a trailer, you know, seek shelter in a more substantial location, something with a foundation. This squall line is actually thin enough that you could probably just go grocery shopping for an hour and it'll be through and you won't have to worry about it anymore, as opposed to having to go hunker down somewhere. So that would kind of be my advice, would be, you know, go to the movies, go to, you know, if you're at work and in a building, that's fine too. If you're in a mobile home and you need somewhere to go to a grocery store for an hour as that squall line moves through. I think you'll probably be safer. Chances are nothing will happen, but why take that risk? Lexi's asking, and several others have asked, what time are we expecting the highest wind in Lake Charles and an estimate? Well, we're looking at the highest gradient winds probably from now until the squall line passes through. Now, the squall line we're expecting to move through the area sometime, let's see, let me pull my timing up here, probably between about noon and 1 p.m., noon and 2 p.m. or so. That's kind of the time frame we're looking at for the activity to move through the Lake Charles area. Renee says, I have to drive to Houston from Lafayette around 3 to 4. Will the worst be over, or will I be driving through it? Well, that's 4 p.m. Looks like it's moving, forecast to be moving right through the Lafayette area at that time. So I kind of make it a game time decision. You know, if you have to wait 15 minutes until that squall line gets through, once it's past you, you should have no problems driving west. You just got to wait for that squall line to actually get through. And it looks like it'll be moving through there between about 3 and 4 p.m. Billy says, I remember in the 90s, a boat Echo came through with 100-mile-per-hour winds, and it did some really bad damage in Sulphur with a similar setup as today. Yeah, and that's what we're concerned about with this squall line. You know, anytime we get, as you say, it's a Boeing segment, it's basically where the line of storms actually kind of looks almost like a bow and arrow. It actually kind of comes out here and pushes. What happens is a lot of the winds behind it are actually pushing very quickly, 100 mile an hour in some cases, pushing that out, and that's what kind of develops that bow pattern. That's what he's talking about whenever he says that. And that's kind of the fear of the possibility of that occurring with this event. Now, we'll have to see how that eventually evolves, but that's why we have that damaging wind threat as we go through the day today. Alexa says, I'm joining again. Is there a chance for embedded supercells? I've heard talk of that lately. I think most of the supercells, we kind of hinted or talked about this a little while ago, most of the supercell activity is going to be, if it develops, kind of ahead of that line of storms. Now, I think the majority of the activity, though, let me come back here so I can actually point some stuff out here. A majority of the strongest storms are going to be embedded within that line itself. They're not necessarily going to be supercells, but they are going to be where the damaging winds are going to occur. A supercell in its traditional sense is kind of its own entity. It's kind of its own isolated thing that usually develops out in front of this squall line. Now, you can get some supercells embedded within thunderstorms, but I think the overall risk for that today is relatively low. It's the strong damaging wind from that bowing feature that we just talked about, I think is going to be the bigger threat. Candace says it's time to make sausage, bread, and brownies. Bring me some, Candace.
What's sausage bread?
I don't know if it's sausage bread. It might just be sausage, comma, bread, and brownies. If it is sausage bread, yeah, I'll need that recipe, though. That sounds delicious. I'm going to go make some sausage bread. All right, so I'm not seeing too many more questions here other than everybody asking about their individual locations. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up for the time being. If you have a question that I missed for some reason, or you think of one once we get off the briefing here and you're viewing this as a recording, feel free to shoot us a direct message on Facebook, including for those individual locations. I'm happy to answer those offline. I just don't want to kind of do that at each individual location while we've got a bunch of people on here. But I'll be happy to talk to you offline if you'd like. So shoot us a direct message on Facebook and we can get your questions answered that way. You can also email me directly if you'd like, donald.jones@noaa.gov. And I'll be happy to answer your question that way. You can also tweet us at NWS Lake Charles. We're also on Instagram, NWS Lake Charles. So lots of different ways to get in contact with us. You can also give us a call here at our office if you'd like. Area code 337-477-5285. And you can speak to a forecaster directly. Myself and Chanelle will be here for a while, as long as we've also got another 3, 4, 5 other forecasters out there in our operations area. We'll be happy to talk to you and get your questions answered that way as well. We're not planning on doing another briefing with this event. We're going to kind of take a wait and see approach. We'll see how things develop as we go through the rest of the morning and afternoon. We will provide another briefing if we start seeing more widespread severe weather. Otherwise, this will be our last briefing for this event. So we'll kind of have to play that by ear and see how things kind of evolve. But regardless of whether we do another live briefing or not, continue to keep an eye on the weather situation as we go through the day today. Remain weather aware. Have a way to get warnings in the event that severe thunderstorm or tornado warnings are issued, whether that be on your phone, weather radio, local TV media outlets. Have some way to get those warnings quickly in the event that those warnings are issued. Everyone have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk to you again soon.